Folks, I'm not sure who can hear me, but I believe that the hosts of the webinar are having some technical difficulties. So we're in a delay just for a moment. This is Joe Murphy with the U.S. Department of Education, and our contractor is having some issues connecting. So we're hopefully going to get started here very soon. Our apologies for the difficulty.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jess with PSC. Joe, can you hear me?
I can, Jess, yes.
Wonderful. I apologize. We had started, and I don't think you guys heard me, so I appreciate you jumping in. I sincerely apologize for that. This is Jess from the Partner Support Center. Again, I apologize. We are experiencing technical difficulties on our end, but I think we're all squared away at the moment, so I will start over. If you are here to join the EMAPS Assessment Metadata Survey webinar today, you are in the right place. We are going to go ahead and get started. A couple things I just want to go over. Everyone upon entry is muted, so we cannot hear you, and the reason for that is to cut down on background noise as we go through the webinar. But if you do have questions, feel free to answer them in the Q&A panel. That's going to be on the right-hand side of your screen. Please do not enter them in the chat panel. And then we will, given time at the end of the webinar, go through the questions and answer them with the participants on the call today. There will be a copy of this presentation and a link to the recording that we will send out. It will be posted to the community site as well in the PSC support update. As I had previously mentioned, we are experiencing technical difficulties today, and we are unable to do the live demo as we had expected. But don't fear, we will go ahead and we are going to re-record everything after when we are able to connect to our demonstrations. And then we'll make sure to include the demonstration for you in the recording. So once we send out the link to the recording, know that we've re-recorded everything and everything will be included at that time. Last, I just want you to know that there is going to be a survey at the end of the presentation today. We really would ask that you please do that survey for us. It's going to help give us thoughts and feedback from you all who we do presentations for and how we can improve our future webinars. So if you can, please go ahead and take the time to do that at the end of the survey. Bear with me for 1 second. I just need to do one thing, and then we will start the webinar. Okay, thank you so much for your patience. As we go over the agenda today, we will do an introduction. We will go over the Assessment Metadata Survey webinar as a whole. We will go ahead and skip the live demo, and then we will go over screenshots of how to complete everything. So we will go over how to complete the webinar. It just won't be in the live demo environment, and again, we apologize for that. We will also go over how to complete the survey in EMAPS. And then, given any time at the end, we will go through questions and answers as they come up. So we're going to go over who is on the phone with us today. We have a few people from the Department of Education. I'd like to introduce them. We have Elizabeth Fenning and Joe Murphy, both from the Elementary and Secondary Branch, otherwise known as ESB. And we also have Meredith Michelli, who represents OSEP at the Department of Education. I, again, am Jessica Green with the Partner Support Center, and I also have Doreen Fay helping out, who is also from Partner Support. The target audience for today are going to be the state assessment directors, EdFacts coordinators, and the Part B data managers. These are the folks who should work together to verify that the metadata is accurate and what is reported matches between the survey and the EdFacts submission system with the data that's submitted through there. EMAPS is also known as the EdFacts Metadata and Process System. It's the web-based tool that's used to provide states with an easy method of reporting and maintaining information on state policies, plans, and metadata to aid in an analysis of data collected. So system requirements, we've always asked you guys to use Internet Explorer. However, with the upgraded system that we have done in the past month or so, Chrome is also compatible with EMAPS. So please feel free to use Chrome or Internet Explorer for submitting data through EMAPS. Just know that EMAPS, the website, will automatically log you out after 30 minutes of any inactivity. So if you happen to walk away, it will go ahead and log you out automatically. So right now we're going to go over just the assessment metadata survey as an overview. Metadata for regular assessments and the alternate assessments are collected for math and reading for grades 3 through 8 and secondary grades. Science data are collected in at least one grade in the grade spans of 3 through 5, 6 through 9, and once in secondary. And the only metadata for those assessments implemented to meet the assessment requirements under ESEA as amended should be reported in the survey. The good news is that your responses from last year's survey will pre-populate the survey, but you do need to review those carefully to just ensure that no changes are necessary since there have been surveys to the actual metadata survey this year. Also, just make sure to communicate with your other program offices in your state. We always advise everybody to try and communicate and be on the same page. The assessment directors should confer with the EdFacts coordinators and the Part B data managers just to make sure everyone's on the same page and all the data being submitted aligns through all the systems. Here's an overview of the metadata that are reported in the assessment metadata survey and how it is interpreted. The assessment type, you've got the assessment name, the number of performance levels for each assessment, the number of performance levels at which students are considered proficient, the grade each assessment is administered in. You're going to identify if the test is an end of grade or an end of course assessment. You're also going to note whether or not your state permits significant medical emergencies as an exemption from the state assessment, any comments that are relevant to what's being submitted. And then again, this year, you're also going to submit whether or not the state exempts 8th grade students who take the high school math course. And then you're also going to indicate if there's any year-to-year changes for the regular and alternate assessments for each academic subject. For school year 2018-19, the survey did open on Monday, October 7th. That was on Monday. And it is going to actually stay open until Wednesday, December 11th. The survey will then reopen for edits on February 26th, 2020, and it will close on Wednesday, March 25th, 2020. And just note, just something for your records, the reopen period will coincide with when the data quality reports will be coming out to you guys. So that's going to be the data quality reports or the CDQR data quality reports that you guys receive. There have been some updates to the assessment metadata survey this year. All good enhancements. There will be a status bar at the top of the summary page of the landing page of the survey, which is going to show the overall status of the survey. There is a drop-down field that's been added for easy navigation to other surveys that you may have access to within EMAPS, and it'll also reroute you directly to the EdFacts portal. We'll show you some screenshots of that in a little bit. And then we've actually added 3 new Excel state reports This is going to be in the report section of the assessment metadata survey. We'll also go through those in a little bit. There are two different assessment types, each with and without accommodations. So we've got the assessments collected are for regular and alternate. Regular assessments are collected with two different permitted values in the file specifications through ESS. But in the EMAPS survey, the data are collected under the heading regular assessment with and without accommodations. The alternate assessment type collected this year is the alternate assessment based on alternate achievement standards. As a reminder, the alternate assessments based on grade level and modified achievement standards are no longer collected through ESS or in the assessment metadata survey. Data elements for each type of assessment will be pre-populated from what was submitted in school year 2017-18. So if there are changes that are necessary, you will need to be prepared to report the assessment type, the name of the assessment, the number of performance levels, the lowest performance level that is considered proficient, the grades offered to indicate if the assessment is the end of course or grade, and if it is neither, a comment regarding the assessment when the assessment is offered. So in other words, you need to be ready to report all of the data for any new assessments that were not added to last year's survey. The survey collects metadata only for math, reading, and science assessments. If you are an outlying area or freely associated state, reference section 10.0 of the user guide for the assessment metadata survey, which is on ed.gov, for clarification about your reporting requirements. The user guide is also posted within EMAPS on the summary page of the assessment metadata survey. I'm going to go over a few items to assist with aligning the assessment metadata survey with data that's submitted through EDFACS data files. These are helpful checks when reviewing the responses between state staff within your state. For the question, does your state permit significant medical emergency as an exemption from the state assessment for all students? If the answer to this question is no, then the permitted value med exempt should not be included in the participation files of your EDFACS data submissions. So that's going to be files 185, 188, and 189. Also note that the default value for this question is no, so just make sure to review it very carefully if any changes have taken place from last year. Next, review the performance levels to ensure that the file and the survey match. Ensure in the state level data files that all applicable levels are reported for each assessment. Also make sure to review the survey to ensure that the correct number of performance levels and the correct at or above proficiency levels are reported for each assessment type. Again, if there's been any changes since last year, make sure you update accordingly to ensure that the data are correctly reported and align in both the EDFACS data files and the EMAPS assessment metadata survey. Additionally, you'll want to verify which grade levels should be reported for CSPR and IDEA purposes. Ensure that the grade levels in the survey match exactly those reported in the EDFACS data files. For example, if submitting grades 3, 5, 7, and 11 in the EDFACS file for one particular assessment, make sure that the metadata reflects the same grades. Keep in mind that reporting HS for high school in the survey does not match grade 11 in the data file. You must choose grade 11 in the survey and report grade 11 in the data file for the data to align. Regarding the CSPR, the metadata is essential to correctly populate section 1.2 of the CSPR and to also calculate the percentage of students considered proficient for the public assessment files. When EMAPS survey responses and ESS data are joined, each row of data in the achievement files, 175, 178, and 179, are assigned a proficiency status of yes or no. The percent proficient is then calculated by dividing the counts with a proficiency status of yes by the number of students that took an assessment and received a valid score. To use these data, ED sums up the two statuses in order to calculate the number of students that took an assessment and received a valid score. After the data files are submitted and the assessment metadata survey closes, a snapshot of the data is taken place. Afterwards, during the Consolidated Data Quality Review, also known as the CDQR, discrepancies are then identified by the program office and are brought to the state's attention through the CDQR spreadsheets. During the reopen period, states then go through the update process of logging into the survey and making any updates that are necessary directly to the survey and the data files. A tip is that reviewing data and metadata prior to submission is very important to prevent any misalignments that may happen upon submission. And doing this prior to submission can also improve data quality and prevent any rework after the fact. As we noted before, correct alignment of the metadata is also important to correctly populate the CSPR, and that was section 1.2. Now we know why the survey is important and when it's due, let's take a look at how to complete the survey. Since we don't have a live demo, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of go through the slides to give you a screenshot of everything, and I'll talk you through it. And again, we will send out the link to the recording after we review the live demo and include it. So this is your login screen. Everybody knows what the EMAPS login page looks like. If you don't know your username or password, just give PSC a call and we will be glad to help you. Once you log in, you're going to see the new look of EMAPS, although if you've been here for a few months, then it's not new anymore. It's the same login screen. You will be routed to the EdFacts portal. From here, you go ahead and click the Assessment Metadata Survey link under the EdFacts heading. And I'd also like to note that you'll see here there may be other surveys that you may have never seen before. So depending on the type of permissions that you have, that will determine the surveys that you see on your EdFacts portal page. Once you click the Assessment Metadata Survey link from the EdFacts portal page, it'll take you to a new tab where it will open up this says Florida assessments, but it'll say your state assessments for 18-19. From here, you click that blue link, and it will then take you to the landing page or the summary tab of the Assessment Metadata Survey for this year. One thing I want to point out is you will see the status bar. That is new this year. That's what I mentioned earlier. This survey, as you can see, has not been started. Once you go in, enter something, and then save it, that status bar will then be in process. Once you finish the survey and submit it fully with the timestamp and all of that, it will then be identified as submitted. So here, this is the summary tab. Again, we will briefly go over it. We already went over the survey bar, the progress bar. The second little star has a star next to the general information about the survey and just why it's collected. And then the third star at the bottom has a direct link to the user guide for the survey. So if you're in the assessment metadata survey and you have a question and you need the user guide, you can just go back to the summary tab and download that right there. The first tab of the actual survey is the general tab. This is going to be where the two questions, does your state permit significant medical emergencies as an exemption? And also, is your state exempting 8th grade students who take the high school math course associated with the end of course assessment form? Those two questions are answered on the actual general tab. To update, you just click the Update General button on the top right-hand corner. It has a red box around it. And once you click that, it will then give you radio yes or no buttons. That is how you answer. Something else to note is that any questions that are required to be responded to will have an asterisk next to them. You cannot proceed or save information on a page unless every question with an asterisk by it has a response. So keep that in mind if you're going through and you're unable to save anything. Once you respond to both questions, you will click Save as Draft at the bottom. Next question. Some things I just want to go over on the math and reading tab, regular assessments with and without accommodations, and then the alternate assessments based on alternate achievement standards do require this information to be answered for every single one. We went over this earlier, but these are the 6 data elements that are required for all assessments. So as you continue, you will notice at the top there's going to be a tab for math, and then there's a tab at the top for reading and language arts, and there's a tab for science. All 3 of those tabs are very similar in how they function. The data is just specific to that assessment type. So states are required to submit math and reading assessment data for each grade from grades 3 through 8, and 1 at a minimum for 1 grade in high school. If that is not entered, you will not be able to submit your survey. Responses from last year's survey, the 17-18 assessment metadata survey, will be pre-populated if they were submitted for that specific survey. So make sure you review what is pre-populated, and you are able to edit anything that's in there to make it accommodate 18-19 data. To start, you can actually click on any of those tabs. You can start with science or you can start with math. You do not have to be responding to them in that specific order. Just make sure that whenever you do, you just save as draft before you continue. You don't exit out of the page because it will lose anything that you enter. Again, so the math and reading tabs, they contain hyperlinks. So once you click the math tab, you'll notice that there is a 3 through 8 tab and then a secondary tab or links in the red circles. Science is going to have an additional hyperlink for grades 6 through 9. So what you would do is you would click the 3 through 8 hyperlink, and then for each assessment type, there's going to be prior year survey data that's already going to be there. So make sure you review everything. There are going to be 6 questions for both regular and alternate assessments. It's going to be listed under the assessments table. You'll see it down there. The first question is 1A. Did the state change its academic assessment? Every single one of those has an asterisk by it. That means that they are required. So any of those that you actually respond yes to, you will get a drop down of a couple more questions that are also required. So if you have questions while filling out the survey, you can reference the user guide, or you can just call PSC and we'll walk you through it if you don't understand how to respond. To actually update this, you would click the Update Math in the top right-hand corner or Update Reading and Language Arts, and then all of your cells become editable, and then you can edit anything. For the actual assessment tabs, you're going to verify the data that's pre-populated for grades, for example, 3 through 8, as you can see here. If the performance levels, proficiency levels, or any of the identifiers have actually changed, you can just use the drop-down menus to update to accommodate 18-19 data. Just know that rows cannot be deleted. You have to enter metadata for each grade. So as you can see here, if the number of performance levels has changed, you can update that for 18-19. If it's no longer an end of course grade and it's an end of year grade, you can choose that on the right-hand side as well with that drop-down menu. As I mentioned, after you update your performance levels, you will answer the 6 questions below. If yes is responded to for the specific questions are A or C, you will get additional questions B and D. They will automatically appear. You're going to repeat these same steps for the alternate assessment tab for the same assessment type, which is going to be below the regular assessment table. So you'll have your regular assessments at the top and then your alternate assessments after you scroll down. For the secondary assessments, if needed, there's actually a feature where you can add a row for each grade level that the assessment is administered. So for example, if you only offer grade 11 for secondary, you wouldn't have to add any more rows. But if you offer assessments at 9, 10, 11, and 12, you would want to add 3 more rows so that you can enter that assessment data for those specific grade levels. If you accidentally add a row and you need to remove it, it's pretty simple. You just click the red X on the right-hand side. It's got a circle around it, and it'll automatically remove anything that you've entered. Also for the assessments, for the secondary tab, if you select high school, I mentioned this earlier, you cannot also select grade levels. So high school includes all grade levels, while if you're choosing 9, 10, 11, and 12, you're identifying them by grade. So you cannot enter high school and a specific grade level. You have to choose one or the other. And if you do, you'll get an error and it won't let you proceed. So if you have questions, just contact PSC while you're doing that. But the error that's at the bottom, you must provide at least one assessment, it will fire. And then you must choose either grades 9 through 12 or high school. So it won't let you proceed either way. Moving on to the Science tab. The Science tab has 3 grade span hyperlinks, whereas Math and Reading Language Arts only has 2. To update Science, you're going to follow the same process. You would click the Update Science button in the right-hand corner, and then that's going to allow you to choose your grade span, and then you can enter the assessment data accordingly. There are 3 through 5, grades 6 through 9, and then you have your secondary. It's going to be high school or grades 10 through 12. Same thing, you're going to add a row for each grade level that the science assessment is administered at, and you can delete if you happen to add an extra row. For error messages, you will not be able to successfully save anything on a page. You won't be able to click Save as Draft if there are any errors in red that exist within that survey. Any errors could possibly fire if there is something with an asterisk that's left blank, if data are only entered for one grade span for math or reading and you need to enter all of them. If any at or above proficiency is greater than the value selected for the performance levels, or an alternate assessment is not present, you would get an error for that as well. Once you've actually completed all the data in the survey for all 3 assessment types and all 3 grade levels, well, 2 grade levels, then it is time to verify what you've entered and then submit the survey. Once the errors are all addressed, they've been cleared, you will see the Verify Data button appear on the top right-hand corner. That button will not appear until everything in the survey is clear of errors. So once it's clear, you're going to click Verify Data, and then it will give you a screen of everything that you've entered, and you can scroll through and just validate everything that you've entered and make sure it all looks accurate. Any warnings that are there will appear on this screen. They will be at the bottom in red. However, they will not prevent submission. Only the errors within the survey will prevent submission, and you will know that if the Verify Data button is not yet there. If you still have responses that are required and errors exist, then, like I said, the Verify Data button won't be visible. You can see in the screenshot here, there's no Verify button. That's because there's still errors. So you'd have to go back through, make sure you've cleared all of those until that button is visible. Once you're ready to certify and submit your data, you'll be on the Verify and Submit screen. You've verified everything and it looks accurate. There are 2 things that you have to do. The first one is you have to check the box that indicates that you have reviewed the EMAPS assessment metadata survey with the EdVEX coordinator. That's basically just confirming that you've communicated within your state and everybody has taken a look at what's been entered and make sure it aligns across all surveys and data. You're going to enter the EdVEX coordinator's name below, and then you click Submit. And then it will send your survey to the Department of Ed and to the database, and you will also receive a copy of the HTML report via an automated email. So once you get that email, you can save it, but if at a later time you need to go back in and download a copy of what was submitted, that's easily accessible. You just go back to the State Reports tab within the actual assessment metadata survey in EMAPS, and you can download a copy of whatever was submitted. Just make sure you're always using the latest submission because resubmissions are acceptable within the open period of the survey. There are 3 new state reports that have been created this year to accommodate requests from states. So we hope that you find them very helpful. The following reports have been added this year. So we have an exemptions report. This is going to be an Excel report that contains state responses to the general assessment questions. You have an assessment changes report. It's an Excel report as well. And this one contains the state's responses to the questions that pertain to the assessment changes. This will also include any comments that were entered. And then the third report is going to be a performance level report, also in Excel format. And this is going to be the assessments conducted for each unique subject, assessment type, and grade level. Once the survey is submitted, these reports can be accessible from the state's report page. So you can see down here in the screenshot, this first one is the assessment metadata survey that was submitted. And then you've got the 3 reports that follow. These are going to be these 3 reports that are here, the exemptions, assessment changes, and performance level reports. So they will all be generated upon submission. Email notifications, you should have gotten an email on Monday from the system notifying you that it was open. Each time the survey responses are submitted, you're going to get a copy of this updates with an HTML report attached. 10 and 3 days before the close of the survey, they will send you a automated email if a state has not logged in or logged anything. 10 and 3 days before the close of the survey to any states that have entered data but have not submitted it, just to remind you of the survey that's currently open. You will also get an email each time the survey reopens indicating that changes can be made if required. And then you'll also get one during the reopen period 3 days prior to the close. As well, in the same time that you, as state users, receive emails, the Department of Education will also receive a copy of the survey that is submitted with an HTML report attached, and then they will actually send a final HTML report to OSEP at the close of the initial and reopen periods, more or less just like a snapshot of all the data that was submitted so that they can review it. At this time, we can pause and review any questions that you may have. I know that was a lot of information in a short amount of time, so if you haven't already and you do have a question, please enter it in the Q&A panel on the right-hand side of your screen, and we will go through those as they have come through. So I'm going to give you a couple minutes just to enter your questions. Okay, we do have a question. The question is, was any functionality added to the survey to copy answers between subjects? I'm assuming what that means is if you enter data for one assessment, can it then be automatically pre-populated to copy over for an updated school year? The answer is no, we have not done that, but we can look at that for future enhancement suggestions. That is the only question we have, so I'm going to give people just a minute or two more to enter any other questions they may have. Okay, right now there are no other questions, so we are going to end the webinar. But as a reminder, if you could please take a couple of minutes after the webinar is ended or you exit to please take the survey. I know it's time consuming, but it should only take a couple of minutes, but it will help partner support in future webinars and trying to tailor the way that we present the information and just kind of make things so that you guys enjoy them more, so that they're tailored to fit your needs and the things that you want to hear. So if you could please take that survey at the end, we would greatly appreciate it. As a reminder, we were unable to do the demo today, and we greatly apologize, but we will re-record everything, including the live demo. So once that recording link is sent out to you, just know that it will include everything. So if you want to see the live demo, go ahead and click that. It should be in the support update. If not this week, it will be in next week's support update. And as always, if you have any questions or concerns about the assessment metadata survey or any EdFacts data in general, feel free to give PSC a call, as we are here to help you. Thank you for your time today. We really appreciate you spending it with us, and I hope you have a great afternoon.